The Mariners were not one of the final three teams listed in contention for Roki Sasaki. Joe and I are going to go over what that means for this team that apparently was planning on going all out for Roki and why they did not even get an interview, as far as we know, with the Japanese star. We'll then talk about the money that they're not spending on Roki and how it's being used in the international pool, the guys they were able to sign here on January 15th. And we'll wrap it all up by talking about the newest additions in Miles Mastroboni and Blake Hunt to the Mariners 2025 40-man roster. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 157 of the Hit It Here podcast, part of the Bleav Network, the Aaron Urseth episode of the podcast. And I am here with Joe. Joe, how are you?
The newest were those names. That was fun. You kind of I don't think you meant to say that, but it happened.
That's what I said?
Well, I think you didn't mean to. But it sounded in my head that you said newest, and I really enjoyed that, actually. That's fun. Yeah, dude. The Mariners and Roki, huh? Just a big fallout, I think, as far as what we've kind of been, I guess, like, shaped to believe, as far as like how involved they were in the Roki talks. And then for it to just kind of like you fall flat on your face and nothing happens, at least as far as good news is concerned, it's like demotivating in the like Japanese international class, I'd say. I'm feeling better than I think the Mariners are at the next chance at the whatever Japanese superstars of the following years. Like
Murakami.
Yeah, kiss Murakami goodbye. He's not a Seattle Mariner next year. And I don't know where they fell out of good faith. I think there's probably a decent amount of dialogue that can be made about it. And I'm assuming you probably have some thoughts surrounding where that kind of stems from. But regardless of like the current like persuasion of like other teams in the MLB right now that have other Japanese stars and the winning culture in those specific cities and teams like Los Angeles and San Diego and somehow, someway Toronto. But
leverage, baby.
Sure. Like, obviously the Dodgers were like always going to be the favorite. And the fact that that's where we're at this point with Roki, like, yeah, that makes sense. The Mariners, did they ever have a chance? The fact that they said that they wanted to go all in is great. But the fact that they also never got a seat at the table is also that's a telling sign that they do not have as much pull as maybe they initially thought in that market. And I'll let you kind of have the baton here on why you think that is.
I think that the way I look at everything with Roki and like you said, the Mariners going all in on him and like then not having an opportunity to even have like a sit down talk with them about potentially coming to Seattle. The Mariners' plan stemmed on Roki Sasaki during this offseason. It is not just a coincidence that we all of a sudden heard like the final three for Roki Sasaki, and then like a few hours later, the Mariners finally made their first move.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a coincidence. The Mariners were waiting to hear if they were going to sign Roki Sasaki. I wholeheartedly believe that. And the fact that until they were basically told they were not a part of it, even though they hadn't even had an interview with the guy, they thought, oh, we still got a chance. Like, it is the worst plan I've ever heard. Frankly, I understand why, but Roki Sasaki should have been seen as a luxury, not the plan. Like, if Roki Sasaki was plan A, Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander should be fired. Plain and simple. That cannot be plan A because the likelihood of getting him was already so slim. He had 29 other teams to pick from, one of which has been in the playoffs every year and has won 2 championships this decade, and has the highest paid player in the history of the game, who just so happens to be the best Japanese player we've ever seen. I find it hard to believe that the Mariners looked at Roki Sasaki and said, yep, we're going to get him. We feel so good about that, you know, until we get him, we're not going to worry about it making any other moves. No, that's stupid. That's asinine. If you get Roki Sasaki, then the Mariners could pivot from there. And that's what other teams have done. But unfortunately, they were waiting. And because of that, now they are going to be left without Roki Sasaki. And they're going to be left with a free agent market that is thinned considerably, a trade market that is thinned considerably. And the team is now filled with a bunch of quad A / guys who are decent, like Donovan Solano, but also It's a fine, as I said in our last video, a fine third or fourth best move of the offseason. But he cannot be, up until this point, the fact that Donovan Solano is the best bat you've added is downright laughable. It's embarrassing. And now that it seems like, since the Mariners found out they weren't going to get Roki, they've now made a move every single day for the last 3 days. I don't want to say it feels like they're scrambling.
Sure.
But it almost feels like they're scrambling because they thought they were going to sign Carlos Santana. It didn't happen. He left. They thought they had a chance to sign Roki. It didn't happen. He's not going to come here. The Mariners have not been able to get the guys that they want, and I think that is a big problem and a big sign that this front office, like, maybe they're too full of themselves. And we have been fans of Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander. I think they're both very smart. I think they're both very good at drafting and developing players. They are not good at talking players into coming here to Seattle, and that has been clear over the past few years.
So you didn't really talk about like what I thought you were going to, of why Roki and other Japanese players maybe haven't wanted to set their sights on Seattle. And it's the falling out of like how Yusei Kikuchi kind of was treated in Seattle, like, and then his departure. I thought that would have been like a telltale sign for you of like, if there's things to kind of like look back on with how the history of the Mariners and Japanese players has been kind of like going, obviously Ichiro, like the biggest Japanese superstar of all time. Like that should be enough weight for people to come here, at least in the eyes of some. And there was some players here and there throughout like the, 10, 20 years after Ichiro. But since Kikuchi and how that kind of ended and like his tenure here, it just like hasn't gone particularly well. But I don't want to harp on that too much. I don't know if there's anything really there. That's just kind of like where my headcanon went. And I think Marine Lair, maybe I can't remember who else talked about it, but I remember seeing something like that. I'm like, yeah, that kind of like aligns with how I'm probably feeling about the international class, specifically from the NPB, maybe even the KBO as well. But the scrambling aspect for the Mariners is interesting because the moves that they've been scrambling to do haven't particularly been the most exciting. I mean, I'm excited about Donovan Solano just because like that's a guy that I've been pounding the table for a couple off seasons that I'm like excited about. But I get why people aren't probably as excited as I am because like, yeah, he's not like this incredible player. Like he's going to play a role. I hope he plays it well. And like, that's why I'm excited. But the fact that, like you mentioned, we've seen transactions every single day and we got even some more in the international pool that is not related to Roki. It's more so the, from Central America, South America, like Caribbean area, stuff like that, which is the traditional market for international, like prospects in that pipeline, where the Mariners have seen a lot of success. So maybe if they don't have a ton of success over in Japan, this international in the Latin America areas can maybe lift themselves up. They can, raise the franchise through the international pipeline that way. Because I mean, you go back, Laz was, I think, a top 10 in 2022. 2023, you had Thelan Celestin, who was the second ranked international prospect. You had DeWalt Joseph, who was the 8th ranked last year. And this year, signed today, you got the number 6, Yorger Bautista, the beast, out of Venezuela. And then Kendry Martinez, another top 50 guy there at number 19. This is, I think, the 2 highest, like, total. Because, like, normally it's, like, one guy at, like, in the top 10 and then, like, one guy, like, lower in, like, the 40s. I don't remember where Michael Arroyo was when he signed with Laz as well. But 2 guys inside the top 20 is very, very exciting. And there's a bunch of other guys here, but Colton, the main 2 are Bautista and Martinez. I'll read off the rest that got signed today, but the main point of our conversation here is going to be about those 2. Henry Alcantara out of Venezuela, Manuel Almeida out of Venezuela, Cesar Farias out of Venezuela, Whistler Infante out of Venezuela, Randall Munoz out of the DR, Elias Perez out of the DR, as Manuel Pina out of the DR, Christopher Quiros out of Dominican Republic as well, Darwin Ramos, and then Michael probably Rodriguez out of Cuba were the international prospects that were signed by the Mariners on the 15th.
Another one was Linpo Chun.
Yes, I do.
The Taiwanese team, I believe.
Yeah, I forgot about that. It's just not listed on Shannon Drayer's thing, but that was probably because it was from this specific like grouping, as opposed to like he was in a different international market. But regardless,
good point. Yeah.
This money went to these prospects instead of Roki Sasaki, and the fact that there's two guys in the top 20, sure, Roki's the number one, but two guys in the top 20 is an exciting time for Mariners fans, I think, as far as if you're excited, if you like the prospect system, you like the farm system aspect of baseball, these are two guys to kind of keep your eyes on for sure.
Listen, I know that a lot of Mariners fans don't want to hear about the future right now. They don't want to hear about, the team that's going to be on the field in 5-6 years because they want to win now. And I'm right there with you. Like I would love to be talking about actual moves being made by the Mariners, but these are guys that have a very good chance to impact the Mariners down the line. Again, you already mentioned some of the guys like Laz and Michael Arroyo, etc. But another one is Julio Rodriguez, is what the literal superstar of your baseball team was drafted. I believe it was signed during the 2017 international signing period. I think it was. And obviously now he's your everyday superstar center fielder. Like these guys have an opportunity in 4 or 5 years time to be massive players for your team. Massive. And Yorger Bautista, hopefully we're saying that right. Let us know in the comments down below, as I'm sure most of you will. Let us know if we're not saying it right. Maybe we can get that pronunciation going. But he's 17 years old, left-handed, both hits and throws left-handed. His scouting grades, his hit tool is a 50 grade, power is a 65 grade, run a 60 grade, arm a 65 grade, fielding a 55 grade with an overall of 55. This guy hits tanks. And he's 6'1", 175 pounds, so there's still plenty of room for him to add some muscle to that frame. I think that based on what MLB.com has to say, there's a decent chance that he starts out in like center field, but he probably moves to right field later on down the line, because of his arm and his massive power. I think that he's a guy that you look at, I don't want to say he could progress quickly through the system, because we have seen guys over the past few years that don't get going right away. Felnin's a great example, a guy who we just didn't get to see right away. And I think that as Bautista gets a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, he's a guy that legitimately has, 30 home run potential, 30 plus home run potential at the major league level, especially in a ballpark like T-Mobile. I think that he's also just seems like a fun dude, Joe. You mentioned earlier that when they signed him, number 19, Bautista.
For Jose Bautista,
which is very, very cool. Obviously, anyone who grew up loving Jose Bautista knows how good of a power hitter he was. Yorger, the beast, like you said, La Bestia is another guy that, might be able to fit that kind of 40 home run potential that Jose Bautista had as well.
I mean, he popped 50 one year. Imagine 2031, Yorger Bautista popping 50 homers. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid already. You mentioned the overall prospect grade there at 55. Just for frame of reference, our number one prospect in the system right now, Colt Emerson, also a 55 grade overall. So, Yorger's going to jump into the top 10. I think pretty safely. Fallon did. Dawal Joseph didn't. He was more in like the mid-teens range, which I think makes sense since he was the number 8 prospect. But again, also room to grow. Like Laz wasn't immediately in the top 10 when he got signed as well, and now he's third. So there's definitely room to grow for some of these guys. But Kendry Martinez, the other guy in the top 20 here that the Mariners signed, he was the 19th international prospect of this class. Shortstop, left-handed hitting. Kind of sounds like by the projection from MLB.com that it's more of a contact bat. Could grow into a bit more pop as he gets older because he's 17, just a 5'11 frame at 160 right now. But yeah, a shortstop, they're going to just, the way that this class always works is you find the most hyper athletes that you can find, and you just let them grow into whatever potential that they find. And the shortstop, center fielder, that's the main position that you're going to typically find her. You're not going to see second baseman or third baseman very often. You're not going to see first baseman. They'll kind of grow out to that later on. Like Laz is still playing a corner outfield spot, but he could be first base in a couple years if he doesn't stick in the outfield. It's just all really dependent on how the prospect development goes. But Kendry Martinez, his grades go as 55 hit, 40 power, 50 run, 50 arm, 50 field with a 50 overall, just a 50 flat. Seems like more, I kind of describe it as a second baseman profile, more contact first, flat path, flat bat path, through the zone. But it's a lefty swing that they say looks very pure. So if he develops power stroke, like think like JP in 2023. I think JP has a nice looping swing that it's a lefty swing that like if he finds that power stroke for a season, he might be able to pop 15 or 20. But again, if Kendry Martinez does develop into anything, I could see him being more of like a second baseman going into his major league career should he make it that far. But the Mariners and their ability to always find themselves with at least one top 10 in this type of international class, and then another one within the top 50 this year, a bigger jump with a guy in the top 20. I think it's a good sign for how they've established themselves in these areas, and especially with a guy like Julio Rodriguez, like you mentioned, as the superstar, the face of your franchise, the number 10 international prospect in 2017 out of the DR. Like, you're going to get someone out of the DR pretty much every single time. And yes, Yorger was the guy out of Venezuela in this class specifically. Like, they didn't necessarily get, I don't think, the top guy out of the Dominican Republic. That was Josuar Gonzalez, I believe, number 2, like behind Roki, right? Like, they didn't get him, but that's okay. Like, they still have, like, they still got, you know, their themselves. Well, what I'm trying to say? Their, I don't want to say hands because that feels weird, but like they've got their their something. Help me. You usually have a word that you throw out at this point.
I don't know what you're trying to say.
I don't know either. Like, they're like, it's like they're not like impression, but like they've got their pull, their something.
Their finger on the pulse?
I don't know, man. They just have like connections, if you will, is kind of what I'm trying to get at. Like, they have the Julio Rodriguez from the DR, like, wow, he's that big suit, like, you know, he's that guy. Like, they will have that connection so long as he is a Seattle Mariner, right? And they've done well in this international pool. I mean, I feel like every year since Julio signed, if that makes sense. Like, they have been successful in this market.
The best players in the game are usually international players, like Juan Soto.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Shohei Ohtani,
Lindor.
Francisco Lindor. Yeah, there are so many. Like, the Mariners being good at draft or at signing out of like the DR, Venezuela, etc. That's huge. I think that some would even say it's massive that the Mariners are able to continuously every single year find guys in these top areas of basically the rankings for 2025 and years prior, be able to find themselves in a position where they can sign these guys year in and year out. They're not able to sign, actual players on the free agent market, but they're able to go out there and get these guys, and then they can develop them. And we have seen time and time again, the Mariners are quite good at development, like under this current regime. We've seen it with the prospects they have gotten in the drafts and the prospects they've gotten from international signing periods like this. The Mariners, this is how good teams, this specifically is how good teams become sustainable. They do really well at drafting, and they add new talent every single year. And the Mariners have put a lot of their effort into that. And the problem is getting the team on the field currently to be the best version of itself. But I think that with the Mariners adding these guys, plus having the number 3 pick, and then another like mid-30s pick in the 2025 MLB draft, this farm system is only getting better. And when we get to the trade deadline in 2025, I think the Mariners are going to be able to have some serious firepower to go out there and make a trade. With that being said, they have to be competitive first. The Mariners have to be a team that is in it. And as of right now, where we sit on January 15th, the 3 signings have been Donovan Solano. They then claimed Miles Masterboni. Ha ha he he. Funny name. And then they traded for, welcome back, Blake Hunt. Now, when I believe it was the Masterboni claim that they DFA'd Nick Raposo.
Yes.
The catcher, right?
Yep.
So basically Blake Hunt is that.
Yes.
Blake Hunt is replacing Nick Raposo. Hunt is a guy that the Mariners liked quite a bit when he was here, and we honestly all kind of thought he should be the backup catcher for quite some time there. He's a guy that I think adds some AAA depth for the Mariners that has the potential to be a bat at the major league level, but unfortunately, we don't really know where that's, because Cal Raleigh obviously is your starting catcher, and right now Mitch Garver's your backup. Blake Hunt's a guy that I don't necessarily know if we see him in the big leagues at all this year.
Yeah.
I think he'll probably just be in AAA unless somebody gets hurt.
Mhm.
Miles Masterboni, however, I'll actually be interested to hear what you have to say about him. I like Miles Masterboni quite a bit. And I want to hear your side first before I talk about it, because before we started recording, you were not too high on the numbers of Miles Masterboni.
Correct. And I really quickly, I just want to say for Blake Hunt, was with Tacoma in 2024. We traded him for Mike Baumann to the Orioles. In Tacoma, in 24 games, had a 905 OPS. Then he went to Baltimore. And in 42 games in their AAA, had a 497 OPS. Like, fell off the face of the earth. So, I don't know if it was the PCL that was helping out Blake Hunt there, but hopefully back in the Mariners system, he finds a little bit more success. Miles Masterboni, Colton, before I get into what I don't like, can I just picture, can I paint a picture for you?
I don't like where this is going.
So it's someone just got, he's on the major league club for whatever reason, roster move, someone on the paternity leave, doesn't matter. He's on the major league club. Ryan Bliss is due up first in this next turn through the lineup. Masterboni's on the bench. Hot dogs from heaven just happened. Aaron Goldsmith's on the call. Okay, first pitch. Masterboni's pinch hitting. He just launches one out to like the Hit It Here cafe, and Goldsmith just laughs for the entire time around the bases. Because hot dogs from heaven are going to look a lot different in 2025 with Masterboni on the roster potentially. Could you imagine if his first hit comes after the half inning where hot dogs from heaven happen? Like, just be honest. Would that has the potential to be like generational Aaron Goldsmith, like spring training, like just laughing at a Cal Raleigh home run kind of vibe? Like, there's no way he wouldn't be in that booth not cheesing at the opportunity to just sit there and be like, that's a hot dog from heaven, Masterboni into the night. Like, could you imagine? It would be so good. But I don't think Masterboni's got that in his bag. A career, Colton, 542 OPS in the big leagues. He's a left-handed bat. Positional versatility out the wazoo. Okay, I get it. They could untap him and find the next Sam Haggerty in Miles Masterboni. I do not know his minor league numbers. I hope you're about to tell me something magnificent about how well he's done in the minors, but he's going to be 29 this coming year. No. Yes, he turned 29 in October. He will be 29. He's all but had 118 games played in the bigs. I have no reason to believe that he will be competent at the major league level because he has not done so by his age 28 season. But please enlighten me on what his minor league numbers are.
So I do want to mention that Miles Masterboni has a total of 247 at-bats in the major leagues. That is so minimal that it's very hard to look at that and say that's a good sample size. It's less than half a season. Like, in terms of his at-bats. In the minor leagues, he is a career 281, 366, 394 hitter, including in 2023, where with AAA Iowa with the Cubs in 2023, he hit 295, 449, 473 down there in AAA. And I think that now, granted, that is only during 39 games, but 165 at-bats. So, I think that in 2024 in Iowa, he only hit 218, 305, 329. He was not good in 54 games in Iowa last year. But overall, over 2,940 plate appearances, he has been a 281, 366, 394 hitter. In 2,940 plate appearances, he struck out 528 times.
That's pretty
He's
good.
Another guy added to this roster that does not strike out that often. His chase rate, when I look at his chase rate, obviously very minimal plate appearances, so it's tough to say. But when you look at his baseball savant page, his squared up, if he had enough plate appearances, would be in the 99th percentile. His chase rate, I'll call that probably like 65th, whiff rate like 70th, and then K rate like in the 75th percentile or something like that. Now, he doesn't hit the ball very hard in those limited at-bats. His barrel percentage isn't very high, whatever. He's fast. He's in the 69th percentile in sprint speed, and he's about average defensively. He's a guy that, like you said, he is not. He's worse than Donovan Solano, in my opinion. However, he's a guy can that can basically fill that Sam Haggerty role for the Mariners in 2025, where you have the potential for Dylan Moore supposed to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a decent chance right now that Dylan Moore is going to be a starter, just based on where the team is at.
Yeah.
This is over the past 3 days, Joe. The Mariners have added Miles Mastrobuoni, Donovan Solano, and Blake Hunt. They got rid of Austin Kitchen, Samad Taylor, and Nick Raposo. Over the past 3 days, this team has gotten better.
I don't disagree. I think that's a fair assessment. Did you have any more thoughts? Because I would like to transition.
It's all you.
Okay. Ryan Bliss or Miles Mastrobuoni?
Depending on the situation, I would go Mastrobuoni. I think it's a lefty-righty situation as well.
Who makes the opening day roster? Ryan Bliss or Miles Mastrobuoni? Right now.
Ryan Bliss.
Who makes the opening day roster? Austin Shenton or Miles Mastrobuoni?
Miles Mastrobuoni.
Who makes the opening day roster? Austin Shenton or Dominic Canzone?
Oh, based on need, Austin Shenton.
So you're taking Miles Mastrobuoni over Dom Canzone.
Based on team need, yes.
Interesting.
Based on positional need. The Mariners don't need another outfielder. They have 70 of them.
So Mastrobuoni can also play the outfield, but you're looking more as him like as the utility infielder.
In his career, he has played the most innings at third base, and then second most is at second base.
Okay.
So and he can play shortstop. He fills he fills all three of those positions that, maybe if JP goes down, you could put him at shortstop. It's not the worst thing in the world. And you don't, again, he's a shortstop. You don't need him to hit the cover off the ball.
Yeah.
You just need him to be, hopefully league average. And so, yeah, I think that because of the need, don't get me wrong, I think Dominic Canzone and Ryan Bliss both have way more potential. But I think that Miles Mastrobuoni has a higher floor than those guys do at where he is at currently. Now, again, his numbers in 2024, 194, 245, 225, not great. Not great at all. But I think that based on his track record in the minor leagues and the fact that technically age 29 is in the midst of his prime. Technically.
Okay.
Technically. If we want to get real technical. I don't know. I think that Miles Mastrobuoni has a better chance than Austin Shenton to be an everyday producer. Does he have the power that Austin Shenton has? No. Does he have the power of Dominic Canzone? No. And does Ryan Bliss have way more potential? Yes. But Miles Mastrobuoni, I don't know. He's been around for a while. He's seen some success down at AAA. I think that based on his positional versatility, he is an important part of this roster. With that being said, I would love for the Mariners to make enough moves where he's off the roster completely. If they cut Miles Mastrobuoni tomorrow, I don't care. Don't listen, comments. I'm looking at you, Bob. All right. I'm sorry if your name's Bob. I'm sorry. I'm looking at you, Bob. They're just bootlickers trying to sell us on these, ass players, blah, blah. No, I'm not. I'm simply telling you that there is a potential that these guys could be impactful in 2025. I'm not saying that these are the guys the Mariners should be adding. They're not. Mm-hmm. The Mariners need to be making impact moves. However, these are guys that do help raise the floor of this team. And if they suck in spring training, cut them. Who cares? I could care less if Miles Mastrobuoni or Blake Hunt are on this team in 2025. The only thing I care about is making this team better. And in my opinion, this team is better, marginally so, but still better than it was last week.
I firmly disagree that he will be impactful for the Major League Club in 2025. I don't see it. I think I might take Leo Rivas over Mastrobuoni personally. I think Bliss, Shenton, Canzone all provide more. I think I'd love to be wrong, but I don't know if he sees Major League time before a Leo Rivas does in 2025. Wholeheartedly. I'd rather Cole Young start on opening day than Miles Mastrobuoni be on the opening day roster. Personally. I do not see the vision. I'm not rocking with what you're putting out there. But
he does have an option.
And that's entirely that is precisely why he's there, and Sam Haggerty probably isn't. because Haggerty's out of minor league options. Obviously, Achilles injury aside, doesn't matter. But like, Mastrobuoni's got an option. Fantastic. You can call him up and be like, all right, see you later for after a game. It's like a very much so in a pinch you could use him.
Mhm.
But I think the only thing that would keep me motivated is for the hot dogs in heaven, Aaron Goldsmith booth call potential. Because that's the only thing that would keep me going if Mastrobuoni was on the roster.
That's fair. I think that'd be really fun. I think that what sucks is that this is what we were talking about. I think
mean-
it sucks that we have to talk about Miles Mastrobuoni and Blake Hunt, and I guess Donovan Solano too, as like the big addition so far on January 15th. Dude, I was looking back on like the videos we were making at this time last year, and
Bet you they're
one of the videos,
hog.
one of the videos was like, do the Mariners have one more move in them? Are they going to make one more move? And I'm like, dog, they better make like 5 more moves. Like, otherwise, this is the most unsatisfying offseason in Mariners history, which is tough to say because the Mariners have been pretty bad throughout their time in the MLB. But that's going to do it from us here on episode 157 of the Hit It Here podcast, the Sir Smoke a Lot episode of the podcast, and go Mariners.